No backup supplies, no perfect conditions, just patience, problems, and purpose. I just got back from Africa, and we need to talk about what I saw.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Resting Stitch Face podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Sarah Harding, with
Dr. Erin Sheffield.
Welcome back. We've missed you.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back home in a lot of ways.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hot showers?
Minus the jet lag.
Yes. I just went to my physician yesterday because, we're going to New Zealand next week. And I said, how can I stay on top of the jet lag? And she's like, the only thing proven is melatonin. And I was like, well, there you go. All right.
You'd think your husband would have some advice, but maybe does he just stay on his regular schedule?
I think he tries to, yeah. And he's just different. He just deals with it fine. It's very interesting.
So is that an adaptation, or is that just why he's so good at his job? He's just evolutionarily prone to be a pilot.
Yeah, I think that's just how he is. And he can just fall asleep. Whereas I can't nap. I can't sleep when I'm uncomfortable. I'm like Rivers.
I can't
I just
either.
need to be cozy.
I am not good at sleeping on planes. I double dosed myself on my Ambien. I'm asking ChatGPT, can I take double Ambien? And it's like, I can't give you medical advice. I'm like,
No.
I know. I'm a doctor. I just want to know what the max dosing is. Okay.
I actually did have her prescribe me some Ambien because you said that. I've taken it before when I was flying back from the ship. And she's like, oh, okay, good. Because I didn't want to prescribe it to you if you're going over long spans of ocean. That may be not good if you are a bad reactor to it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't want that.
Well, I think things like that, you definitely want to do a test run before. But I've taken it before, so I knew it was you should be very careful. You might be really groggy after. And I'm like, I am stuck on a plane for 16, 17 hours. So that's 2 full nights of sleep, essentially. So I think I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I want to be groggy for as long as possible.
I'd rather be groggy from too much sleep than from not enough sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I took 10 milligrams of Ambien. I definitely did the melatonin, and I also did this magnesium glycinate supplement blend that a friend gave me.
Okay.
And
I was reading about phosphatidylserine or something like that too. I'm like, what is all of this?
I slept okay the way there. I actually probably slept 5 or 6 hours, and then the way back I was very fragmented. And then when I got home, it was 7:15, and I was like, all I want to do is sleep. Got a shower finally after hours and hours. We're out in the bush, the African bush, and I'm sweating like crazy. I got drips of sweat, just you could feel it rolling down your back, and I'm just so sticky. And then we had to go hop on a plane for 34 hours, of travel. And so I finally found some baby wipes in a grocery store, so I was able to kind of wipe down, but I just really wanted to shower and to sleep. And then I was like, I don't know if they would recommend I go to sleep at 7:15, but that's all I want to do. And I slept almost 12 hours the first night back, which was amazing. And then I went to bed at 8 the next night and slept till 5:30. So I might have this almost kicked, but it's always harder on the way back. I don't know about for you. Maybe it's the adrenaline of the trip and all that when you're going. But yeah, it was worth it still, I think. It's just you pay for it on the back end.
Were you sick before you left, or did you get sick on the way?
I got sick the next day after we arrived.
That's the worst.
So I was jet lagged. I was sick. And then we're on this medical mission trip. And I was so tired. So we got into Johannesburg, South Africa, and then we had to take a 5-hour bus ride. So we got in at 1 or 2 a.m., and then we were doing a safari the next morning. So we had to be up before 7. So that was a lot. And then we got back from the safari and went straight to the clinic.
What?
It was go, go, go. Wow. And then it was 10, 11, 12-hour days in the clinic. And so I came down with this nasty cold, and I was feeling miserable. And one day I was finding I'm done with my stuff. They'd make me wait around for the other doctors. So I was like, if no one can give me a ride, is there a bed somewhere? And they're just like, yeah, there's beds over there. And I was like, I don't know if this is clean.
Don't care.
Or what, but I don't care.
Don't care.
I'm just laying down.
Yeah, that's a lot. So the safari was cool.
Yeah, the safari was
really
nice.
Cool.
It was really cool. It was only 2.5 hours, so I was nervous. Are we gonna get to see everything?
That's pretty impressive.
And we'd gone probably an hour and a half and hadn't really seen much of anything. And I was just thinking, we're not even gonna see anything. And then finally we saw an elephant. And then finally we saw a bunch of rhinos. And then we saw
so
a
cool.
Pumbaa warthog. So
Love it.
ended up being worth it. We saw a couple lions, although they were hiding behind a bush. She wouldn't pull the Jeep up and around to the side that you could see. And so she just kept being like, yeah, he's in there if you want. And if anyone wants to see, you're going to have to like climb over the seats and come. And I'm sitting third row in this Jeep. Finally, I'm like the last person. I'm kind of like, is it worth it? Because I can just see like some orange tufts poking through, and I didn't think we could see more. So I finally climbed all the way over, and I'm on the hood leaning. And then I was
my
like,
goodness.
it was this giant male lion with his big head and his mane, and he had these big golden eyes just staring at me like so intently. And we were only probably 5 feet away.
What?
So Abe and I hurry and took a look, and then she's like, I don't like how he's looking at you guys. So she like backed out and we left. She's like, normally they don't see people on the Jeeps. They don't see you as prey, but
you
I
guys
don't
look
like how
tasty.
you're looking. So we backed up. So we didn't get a picture of that, but it was very cool.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So then how did you get tapped into this organization? How did you find out about it? How did it all go?
Yeah, we have a friend named Matt Ward who is I think he's a cornea specialist in Utah. I mean, he's been friends with my husband for years, and then they were college roommates, and then they ended up at Iowa for residency. So we became friends again. His wife and I became friends, etc. And so he's been going on this mission trip for, I think, the past 7 years or something. So he invited us to come. They'd had maybe one ENT before. They never had oral surgery before. So they thought it'd be great to add those in as offerings. So they invited us. It was really nice because I was really nervous. And we talked about this. I was excited. It sounded amazing and great. And so we'd been talking about this trip for months and months and months. And we started having weekly calls where at 6 a.m. because it's so far ahead of time there. We had to wake up early, and they would show us cases of, what kind of cases and what kind of instruments do we need. And we go over all the stuff. And at first it was really intimidating because the last ENT they had was a head and neck surgeon. And so they're trying to dig up all the tumors that they can and all the clefts. And they're so excited. Here, husband and wife head and neck team. They can do everything.
Oh, gosh.
And then they're like, how about this huge parotid cancer? And he'd be like, no. And they'd be like, Erin? And I'd be like, no.
Definitely not.
And I'd be like, what about this huge unpaired cleft, Abe? And he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, no. And we just felt like such imposters. Like, are we even going to be able to do anything?
Yeah.
And then I had to kind of reset, like, Erin, you live in Quincy, Illinois, and you've got 6 months worth of patients. Clearly, this country probably needs your help.
Yeah.
And so we just had to kind of reassess and let them know more of the things we could help with. And then I was sending over instruments of, this is my surgical trade. You have this. And what kind of handpieces do you have? Do you have this? And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Yeah, we got this and we got all that. And what about this? And no, that's not quite right. And so we ordered a few things, and we brought bags and bags worth of supplies. That was just interesting. All the prep work. It was a lot of prep just because they didn't know who we were, what we could do.
Yeah.
And then took hours to get things packed because they just kept having all these things mailed to us, and they'd be in huge boxes of sutures. And you know how surgical stuff comes. It comes wrapped in 12,000 layers. So we were like opening with the kids, just like 2-hour packing. Open all of the sutures to the inner pack and stuff them into bags and consolidate. So we're able to consolidate probably like 15 or 20 boxes worth of stuff down to 5 duffel bags.
Yeah.
But I was worried about getting there. We'd finally had everything packed, and I packed the last few things that kept coming, and we're like, oh, we've got just enough for our bag allowance, and we're all set. And then they started sending messages, and they're saying, yeah, that's why we recommend that you mix all your personal items in with the medical supplies. So if they stop you in customs, they don't stop you and flag you for a long time thinking you're like smuggling stuff in. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, we didn't tell you that. I was like, no, you didn't tell me that. I just spent hours getting this all packed like to the brim. What do you mean?
Wow.
Mix it in. They're like, well, at least we recommend you put a black garbage bag over the top and put some like a sweatshirt and some personal stuff on top in case they look. Then I was like, are we gonna get stopped? And
Yeah,
am I a
that's
smuggler? Am
terrifying.
I gonna get in trouble? And they're like, don't tell
Yeah.
them you're coming for a mission trip. Just try not to give them details because it flags you and you get stopped for hours. And
Isn't
so
that
I was
crazy?
so nervous. And then it was
Yeah.
no big deal. They didn't even
Oh,
ask. They didn't
wow.
even care. We just walked right on through,
That's so
got our
funny.
bags, and they were waiting for us. And they
Yeah.
grabbed us and put us on the bus, and we made it. So all of
Yeah.
that worry for nothing,
Yeah.
thankfully. Thankfully.
And so the organization that you went with is called
It was called the Luke Commission, TLC.
okay. And then do they run that hospital or they just come in and help at the hospital?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story. The two founders are named Harry and Echo, which I thought Echo was going to be an African man because I know some African men named Echo, but it's a blonde woman from Idaho.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know, right?
Yes.
And my understanding, Echo's a PA and Harry is a physician. And as soon as he finished his residency, they walked from graduation onto a plane to Swaziland.
No way.
And they just felt this calling to be there and to serve, and it was the height of the HIV epidemic, and evidently Eswatini, which is formerly known as Swaziland, is the highest rate of HIV in the world. And
Wow.
so they were there and they brought their they had triplets in residency. So with their triplet
Oh my
children,
gosh.
young children, just basically driving around in vans and getting people tested and trying to distribute medications and antiretrovirals as much as they could. They said we'd have like 5 prescriptions for 50 people and just trying to figure out who gets it and all that. And so that's how they started, and they just built this from the
Wow.
ground up into a hospital where they've got inpatient units, or building an ICU. They've got 3 or 4 operating rooms. They employ 7 or 800 employees. They're building this
No
drone system
kidding.
to deliver medications and lab tests to and from the facility. She said they took care of 90% of the COVID people for the entire country, had like 100 people intubated and more people on oxygen, and they were having trouble getting oxygen from South Africa. So they, within like 30 to 45 days, built a whole building and their own oxygen manufacturing
Wow. I saw
thing.
that on their Instagram or on something that I was looking at. That is so
So in
incredible.
20 years, they've just totally, I think, transformed the entire country, the culture of the country. I think they're a huge reason why the HIV epidemic is much more controlled than it used to be. And they're just, I don't know, saving the world. And it's really inspiring to me
Yeah.
to see what one person or one family can do. And now their triplets are grown, and the triplets are all finding jobs and work back within the system, which they're like, we never expected that. But one of their sons is in med school now, so he can come back and be a doctor.
Wow.
And one of their sons, I think, was on their IT team, and they've built their own EMR with human resources and all this stuff, and they're marketing it to other businesses and hospitals and things to buy. And it
Oh,
was pretty
man.
incredible how efficient and great that was. And then their other son's doing like social media or business. I don't know. It's just incredible to see this family calling that has literally, I think, transformed the country. And when we
Mhm.
were walking around as tourists, right before we left, we went to a little market where they're selling like handicrafts. And my daughter was wearing a t-shirt that they'd given us all, the Luke Commission t-shirts, and people would stop us and be like, oh, we love the Luke Commission.
Oh, wow.
Oh, TLC, you guys are great. Thank you so much. And even just the
Wow.
people there, it's incredible. So that's kind of who they are and what they're doing. They're definitely changing and innovating healthcare. One of the things they did that they're working on implementing soon that I thought was fascinating is that they had taken these shipping containers and they were turning them into mobile telehealth units
Oh,
that
wow.
they're getting ready to deploy. And so you go on
Cool.
one door and you do like your check-in, sign in or whatever. And then the next door has like a vital sign automated machine, takes your blood pressure and all of that. And then the next door, they have a tablet where you do your telehealth visit with the doctor. And then once you do that, they've got at the end of the unit, a vending machine full of prescriptions and medical supplies. So they put in your prescription or whatever supplies you need and then you just go and you pick it up and you go. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so clever."
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
really interesting to
impressive.
see them doing this problem solving where they've got these access to care issues just like we do, or
Right.
much worse, but they're
Yeah.
finding these creative solutions, which is fascinating and so inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's very important to recognize that I feel like the difference is the primary concern is taking care of people.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like with the corporatization of medicine in the States is that the seems to have gone by the wayside. So the primary concern is making money, unfortunately, not for us, but for the big corporations. It's amazing to see what innovation can occur and how you can minimize the issues of access to care if patient care is your number one priority.
It's interesting to see how they're pivoting because with the Trump administration cutting the USAID funding, they lost pretty much overnight $5 million worth of funding. Just gone. No time
Yeah.
to
Right.
pivot or to,
Right.
come up with a backup plan. So everything they've done kind of up to this point has been free care. And now they're
Yeah.
trying to figure out we need to be self sustainable. We need to
Yeah.
find other ways. We can't rely on funding from the US government. And so what can we do? So one of the things they're doing now is that they're actually taking payments from people who can. So it's a
Yeah.
sliding scale. So some patients
Yeah.
it's free and some pay just a little and then some are happy and it's easy to pay. And trying to
Mhm.
find other revenue sources, add on things that people can do. One of the things
Yeah.
that I was trying to do is introduce IV sedation into their dental clinic.
Mhm.
And that's something that paying patients, if they want that, that's a really nice thing they don't have to have, but
Right.
can help kind of
Yeah.
fund some of the other things that they're working on. So it's interesting to see, and will be interesting to see how they navigate that because they definitely have to pivot to survive, but
Yeah.
also wanting to keep that model where it really is about the patients, and their motto is every patient's a very important patient, and they
Mhm.
even their timeout, they introduce them that way. "Okay,
I
this is
love
our
that.
VIP," would say their name, and I just thought they really try to embody it, like, "This is our family, we're treating your family, everyone gets treated
Mhm.
the best way possible," and I think sometimes that gets lost in the corporate America, etcetera, so
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see how they continue to navigate as they have to, pull the profits more, but that's
Mhm.
a challenge we all face.
Yeah, it is. And I think that actually makes you, like, realize where you can scale back and realize where you can monetize, right?
Yeah.
Because especially with all of the innovations and stuff that they're coming up with, I think that could be helpful too, so,
Something I thought that was very interesting and kinda incomprehensible was here they have this amazing oxygen plant,
yeah.
and so we said, "Are you using this? Are you selling this as a way to get profits?"
Mhm.
And they said, "No, we're not currently selling it to anyone else because there's a oxygen cartel."
Goodness me.
And so no one's brave enough to buy it from us
Yeah, that makes
type of
sense.
thing, and I was like, "What in the
Wow.
world?" That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, corruption and all of that,
Yeah.
it's everywhere, and sad that you're controlling
Oxygen.
oxygen of all
Yeah.
things.
Like, you can do that with drugs, but, like, oxygen? Come on now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought, oxygen, wow.
Yeah. Interesting and sad.
Yeah.
So then tell me more. It seemed like they're technologically pretty savvy, right? I mean, I could see on your posts how you had surgery school schedules and all of that kind of stuff. And so, like, what did you do mostly? And then what did Abe do mostly? And what was,
That was something that was really interesting to see because on one end, we're in this very rural place and people are living in huts without electricity and running water. And yet we're on this medical campus that's got amazing Wi-Fi and their EMR is very high tech. The patients can sign in with the iPad or on their phone with a QR code. And some of that seemed more efficient
wow.
than my clinic back home.
Right. Yeah.
They've got the surgery OR schedule just like we're used to. And then in some
Right.
ways, they don't have access to all the instruments or the supplies or the personnel that we're used to. For
Hmm.
example, I was watching an orthopedic procedure where this person was in a car accident and they had this terrible comminuted fracture of their arm and their leg, and the general surgeon was the one plating and putting everything back together, and I remember asking, "Do you like this? Is this fun and exciting that you get to expand your scope and do all these extra things?" And he's like, "No, I hate it. I feel very uncomfortable. I don't like that I have to do this, but they have to."
Yeah, it's kinda like being on the ship, right? Like,
Yeah,
there
I'm
was
sure.
me and a general surgeon, and that was it. So if it was outside of his realm, it was probably in my realm, and if it was in my you
Right.
know what I mean? And so, you just do
Yeah, I
it.
was thinking about you as we were doing some of those things, like, "Oh, we should talk to Sarah about what operating on a ship is like, because it's probably very similar. You just
Yeah.
make do and do the best you can." What Abe ended up doing, he ended up doing a lot of clinic. He was doing a lot of ear cleanings, for example, and the ear cleanings were very high impact. Some of these people had the most jam-packed earwax. He couldn't get it out. Like, he'd spend a half hour trying to clean out one ear, and you just get these huge chunks, and then, like, wow, you can hear after. So it was
Wow.
sometimes it was just really small. He's like, "That was some of the most rewarding stuff that I did just because, it had such a huge impact." So a lot of screenings, but then it's kind of funny. We were like, "I don't know if we're gonna have anything for me to do." And then I took a picture and the status board said Abe, and then like
Abe, 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 Abe,
the
Abe, Abe.
surgeon names, I love it, were like admire. So it'd be Abe, admire, Abe, 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 Abe. And he'd be there like until like 8 or 9 p.m. operating. But a lot of it's just that bread and butter stuff that
Yeah,
people don't have access to. So he was doing
yeah.
tonsils, and he was doing some ear tubes and some eardrum repairs and a lot of those bread and butter things. And then, an interesting thing, a 2-year-old swallowed this huge 50-cent
Oh,
piece
yeah.
coin that
That was
was
nuts.
huge, like bigger than our 50-cent piece coin, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Can you get this out?" And maybe, like, I don't know if I have the instruments to get back there,
Was it
but
just
that
in his
was
esophagus?
yeah, so it looked like it landed at the very top of the esophagus, so
Wow.
they intubated him to protect the airway and went in, and luckily they were able to grab it. And the kids, we brought our kids, and some of the other families brought their kids, and so they were giving them time to be in the operating room. So it was this big, like, yeah,
Oh,
cheering
how
moment
cute.
when it came
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
But, you're like, wow, that was high impact because they weren't sure if it went too deep down. They didn't know if they'd be able to get it out, and then be
Mhm.
doing an X-lap or something on a 2-year-old, or where do you send them otherwise? So,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
it's not even an
interesting to
egg slap,
see.
it's like a thoracotomy, right? Like,
Right.
And so we on the ship, it's funny too because we had, I think at least one patient that had, what they called grill mark chicken. 'Kay.
Oh.
And so maybe not the most tender of chicken, but they had that lodged, like, in the esophagus, and so we had to go in and put the patient to sleep and take it out. It is funny, the comparisons are very
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely. Yeah. Sarah Harding, Ship
There we
ENT,
go. Yeah.
for
And so
sure.
then how does somebody get earwax impacted that heavily? Does that happen here a lot too or
The
no?
US, it's usually from using a Q-tip, so that's why Q-tips are banned in our no, they're not banned in our house, but you should never clean the inner ear with a Q-tip because instead of pulling stuff out, you're usually just jamming it in.
Uh,
He said someone did have some Q-tip fibers, some cotton
oh,
fibers
yeah.
stuck within it, so maybe they're
Interesting.
doing that too, and some
Yeah.
people are just kinda prone to collecting it, and people in the US have to have theirs cleared as well, but maybe if you just
Okay.
never ever had the opportunity to get them clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what do you do? Just, like, use mineral oil? I've just never had this happen, so I'm,
Yeah,
like,
he
so
would
interested.
hit part of the problem he said was, "It's too dry to suction, but too wet to grab." So we just kinda have to chunk it out with the curettes or the
Oh,
alligator forceps and then
that's
kinda get it moisten and suck it out and all that. I know, I was like, "I could probably do this," and he, like, didn't wanna believe me, and I was like, "Dude, if anyone could, I could do
right?
this."
Yeah.
I'm
I
not trying
only
to
work in
discount ENT, but,
dark spaces.
I've got
Yeah.
very good hand skills.
Yeah. Micro
So maybe next
anatomical
year,
hand skills. Yeah.
I'll get to do some ear
Yeah.
cleanings.
I would be really good at that.
I know,
Um,
we would be totally good at that. He was cleaning our ears at home once, and then I was like, "Let me do yours," and he was so like, "No, mm-mm," and he finally kinda let me, but he was really not trusting me, and I was like, "Ugh, I thought our marriage was closer than that."
yeah. I'm, like, used to using a drill by very important things. This is
Like,
just a curette.
within, like, 0.1 millimeter of accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We both operate in a deep, dark hole. I mean, the ear is a
Yeah.
smaller, maybe deeper hole, but
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
we might have to do some trust building exercises. Like
Oh,
first,
yeah.
I'll just look in your ear, and then next, like I'll just, touch it barely, and
Love
we'll
it.
have to work up to it.
Yeah. So then what staff did they have there? Because it looked like there were dentists there already. And then did they have anesthesia? Did they have on staff?
Yeah, so they have at least one anesthesiologist and then some other anesthesia support people. I think some of them are CRNAs, some of them are physicians who are performing anesthesia, even though they're not officially anesthesiologists. And they've got some general surgeons on staff. They've got an ophthalmologist on staff. That was a big part of this trip.
Mhm.
Was we went with the eye team, so three other ophthalmologists, and a big portion of what they were doing was teaching this ophthalmologist some of the new technologies and how to use some of the machines. The phaco, they kept talking about the phaco, and I don't
Oh,
know what the heck
yeah.
that means.
I remember for that from anesthesia. Yeah.
So they were working on that, and then they've got, the internal medicine doctors, et cetera. And then they do have two dentists on staff. I was really impressed with the dentists. Here, I get frustrated at home by the super dentists who are doing everything,
Yeah.
like that's harming the patient, or maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But here, I admired that they were so brave to take on so many
Yeah.
things and be so willing to try so many different things.
Yeah.
But the dental program is pretty new, only been going a couple of months, so they're still kind of building. It's still
And
kind
where
of
did they
slow.
train the dentists that are there?
One of the dentists was from Ethiopia,
Okay.
and the other dentist was from, I think, Botswana. Most of the
Okay.
doctors there were from Botswana or Zimbabwe.
Okay.
There's not a medical school in the country,
Mhm.
and so it's really hard to find internal
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
people from the area. The other thing is that 70% of the people in the country are unemployed. And so just even finding that demographic of people that would
Right.
be going to medical school is a challenge. But one interesting thing about the dental clinic, when I was talking to Echo again, the founder, she's really passionate about getting the dental program going. And a big portion of that, and this is a reminder that people are the same everywhere you go.
Mhm.
Because the men there are not seeking health care, not like the women.
Yeah.
That's familiar, right?
Isn't that
S
interesting?
so they
Yeah.
are trying so hard to get HIV under control, but the men aren't coming in to get tested. They don't know if they have it. They're not being treated. And so this is a big gap they have in getting this epidemic under
Huh.
control. And so she is wanting to use dental as the entry point.
Yeah.
Which, again, a lot of times it is the entry point. How many of the
Yeah.
times are we diagnosing high blood pressure or finding things on
Mhm.
patients because we're the only healthcare people they see?
Mhm.
So really, it's just an opportunity in her mind to get the testing because everyone who comes to the clinic gets tested, and then to funnel them into the system to get them on the
Treatment.
medication, et cetera.
Yeah.
So the dental program's pretty new. So that was a little bit of a reason they weren't able to fully utilize me, just because they
Yeah.
haven't quite identified the people. I'm sure there's, with 1.2, 1.3 million people in the country, there are people that have dental needs, but they're
Yeah.
just maybe not used to getting care at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
knowing that you can come there and come from your rural hut to find out that you can get your
Yeah.
tooth worked on, that kind of thing. So there weren't a whole lot of patients needing oral surgery services. And then I was kind of relieved because we didn't really have the right instrumentation. So I remember I'd been in the OR and
Yeah.
I'd done a case. And then I came in and I was checking out the dental clinic, and one of the doctors was taking out a tooth and he was kind of struggling with it. And I was like, well, if you need any help, let me know. I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And he kept kind of going, and he kept
Yeah.
kind of struggling. And finally, I was like, look, I'm really happy to help if you feel like you want me to help. And I'm feeling all like, here I am ready to
Yeah.
help. And so he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I went, and then I could not get that sucker out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why
I
he's
didn't
struggling, right?
have the right instrumentation. And I'm like, what do you mean this is what you're using? And they don't even have a retractor, and they don't even
Oh
have
my.
a periosteal elevator. They're using a low speed handpiece with a round burr. And if they have to cut the tooth, they're using a high speed handpiece with a dull diamond burr type of thing. And
Wow.
I was like, I don't even know if I can get this baby out of here. And finally did, but I
Wow.
was kind of glad that I didn't have 100 patients lined up ready to
Yeah.
go because everything took me so much longer, and we kinda by the end got in a rhythm. A striker had donated a bunch of burrs
Oh,
that
wow.
didn't fit on any of the handpieces, except it did go on the slow speed
Okay.
dental handpiece, so I put it on there. So I'm just, like, using a round burr to, like, drill out a trough as best I can and get the Fisher burr, so I'm like, "At least I've got the right shape burr."
Yeah.
And I just, like, just relax into it, Erin. Just relax, and it takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a coronectomy on a tooth. Just I wanted to show them, like, if you really can't get a tooth out, this is an option, or if
Oh,
you're
cool.
worried about it, this is something you can try that
Yeah, it's high
actually can
yield.
work.
Yeah.
And so one of us like, "We done. We coronectomy. I'm gonna show you this."
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We're done. No, we did some sedations of first sedations, and I was able to kind of set up a protocol. Like, these are the things you need to be looking for, and you need to be using a
Yeah.
throw pack. And their anesthesia providers came in to run the sedation. That was good, but just kind of
Yeah.
teaching them maybe you don't want to do these kind of cases in the clinic. Maybe this is an operating room. This is what we need to do. They need an escort. They need to be able to go home. They need to,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah, just the
these things
basics. Yeah.
this is your discharge criteria, all of those things. So, and then making a list of, okay, these are the instruments that you absolutely have to have, and these are the ones
Yeah.
I really
And it's the
want you to
stuff that we take for
have.
granted, right? Like, hey, put a bite
Right.
block in. Like, it's not
Yeah.
just for you, it's for the patient's
Oh,
safety
for
and comfort
sure.
and for the joints, and it's just things that we take for granted,
Right.
you
So,
know?
even though I think I took 13 teeth out, which I can do that in less than an hour, half hour,
Yeah.
20 minutes, 5 minutes. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah.
So it wasn't super high yield in that way, but I just looked at it as like, this is a fact finding
Education.
mission. This is laying the groundwork, letting them know kind of where they're at and where we can go. And I'd love to go back with the dental team and, oral surgery team, maybe even some hygienists or whatever. And we
Yeah.
could definitely do the point and pull or all of that. And that would be super high yield, but they're not quite ready
Yeah.
this time, but I
Yeah.
hope next time they will because we're able
Yeah, and
to
I don't
see the
think that
need.
that stuff I mean, essentially, based on what we could do in the military, my last duty station was with Marines, and with the pretty minimal equipment, right, like, what you can do, and
Yeah.
especially, like, if you're talking about hygiene and things like that, I just think that that's super high yield and super valuable and doesn't take a ton, and so I think that would be really cool. And I have a hygienist that's ready to go. She wants to go. Yeah.
If anyone is interested, please let me know because I would like to put a list together of people who are interested in coming. And they are always kind of gathering up a list of people who need the skills for the next time a team comes
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
it was really amazing opportunity. And it was very nice too, because I've heard other times going on missions. This is my first mission trip.
That's what I was just about to
Um,
ask you if you'd ever done one
this is my
before.
first. I've always
Okay.
wanted to go on one, but this is
Okay.
my first. And I've had a lot of friends say, yeah, we were in dirt huts or we didn't have showers or any of that.
Yeah.
And they made it so easy. They did
Yeah.
all the travel arrangement. All we had to do was buy our flights and show up, and they got us where we needed to go. When we arrived, Harry and Echo let us stay in their home, but their home is this
Wow.
giant compound, like a 4-story home. And I said,
Oh.
how many rooms are here? She said, I don't know, but I have 12 bathrooms. They've got this amazing pool with these really fun water slides. The kids loved being
Yeah.
there.
I thought that was like
And
a hotel.
no, this is their
Oh, that's
home.
hysterical. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a hotel.
Yeah.
So they told us it's like a fancy Airbnb. So we got to go, and then in the
Wow.
morning you'd wake up and they'd have breakfast for you. They had lunch at the
Yeah.
hospital, and then you'd come back and they'd have dinner all prepared. They had a
Wow.
masseuse that they paid.
That's incredible.
So if you needed a massage, then you could set up a massage. And so they just made it so easy. And
Yeah.
you weren't it's not like a luxury hotel, but it felt very nice and just didn't have to worry about anything. So it was very
Anything.
comfortable. It was air conditioned. The food
Yeah.
was healthy and good. And that just made it so easy. So, most mission trips maybe aren't that
Good.
luxe.
Yeah. So I went on one when I was in dental school, and we were originally supposed to go to, I want to say Haiti, maybe, but then there was a hurricane that came through,
Oh,
so we
yeah.
couldn't go. So then they reroute, like last minute. They were like, "Okay, we've got to find something." It's the Dental Community Fellowship, It's big over at MUSC, and they usually go to Ecuador every year, but this was another trip that they planned, and so they last minute, we went to Honduras, and I mean, we went and visited a couple of churches, and then I think we worked out of a church, I think, and again, we just worked in lawn chairs, like they could
Yeah.
recline a little bit and did all of the things, and we stayed with a family, and it was just so wonderful, and I just found that I was so re-energized in terms of, I feel like we get a little, maybe not burned out, maybe cynical, maybe I don't know what it is, just by the daily grind here, because I feel like patients maybe aren't really appreciative and
Mhm.
there's just grumpiness and you have all of the normal HR issues and stuff. But there, I just remember patients were so grateful. And I felt just this surge of love and this just wonderful energy. And it was so refreshing, and I remember when we were done just being so energized, and it really reinvigorated my love for, all of the things, because I was doing cleanings and I was doing fillings and all of that stuff and taking teeth out too, but it just really made you realize, like, what we do is important and it matters, and people are appreciative, and so I thought that was really cool. And did you have that same sort of experience?
Yeah, the people there were so humble and they were so grateful, and they kept saying, "Even if you can't do do it how you would back home, or you don't feel like you have quite the stuff, or you're a little nervous to do it, or you're not the right person," they're just really glad you were willing to try or even to take a look. And I had a really emotional moment. I'm probably gonna cry again.
Yeah.
I was kinda hanging around the dental clinic as the last day, and the dentist wanted me to take out her wisdom tooth, and another physician who had been there helping us kinda coordinate everything and kinda checking out, one of the executive people. He was like, "Yeah, I need you to take out my wisdom teeth too, but we're gonna do it at the end, at the end of
Yeah.
clinic." So I kept waiting, "When are we gonna do this? When are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
Do this?" And it just got getting later and later, and next thing I know, it's 3 p.m. on Friday, we're leaving Saturday morning, and they say, "Can you see this guy? He has a history of salivary gland cancer." And I was like, "Well, I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do for him
Yeah.
in the hour that I'm here,"
Yeah.
but yeah, I can he would just be so glad if you could just being
Yeah.
willing to see him, like, even if you can't, just knowing that you cared. So, sure, I brought him in and
Yeah.
kinda wrecked me. Here I'd been there all week hoping I'd done enough,
Yeah.
and then at the last minute where I can't really do anything, even if I could do
Yeah.
something, they bring this guy in and he's wasting away. You can just tell he's wasting away from his cancer, and he's not even swallowing his secretions well, and I'm trying to they had notes from the King's Hospital or the government hospital. Trying to sort it out, and it sounds like he'd had this parotid cancer that they had cut out, but, they had positive margins, and they sent him for chemo, and the oral surgeon there, I guess there's sounds like maybe one oral surgeon in the country at the government hospital. Someone had done a biopsy, he had a lesion on his tongue, and it came back as squamous cell carcinoma, and so they wanted him to go and get treatment, and he'd had some lesions on his soft palate and all this stuff. And so we got
Wow.
some chemo, but basically he never somehow followed up for the tongue, and that was kind of it. And so here he was, and his complaints he can't eat.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to look in his mouth, and it's hurting just to even look. And he's got this huge tumor on his tongue. I can't even see his throat, but I know his throat's covered in tumor, the way
Mhm.
he's talking and the way he's drooling. And then I look, and he's got this huge, just huge tumor kind of behind
Yeah.
his ear.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I knew, if he'd come to my clinic, I probably couldn't have done anything either. I don't think it was
Right.
operable probably at that point, but I could
Yeah.
have sent him to a team that I know would have the exact best plan for comfort, or
Yeah.
if we can do some radiation and some chemo or something. But like the only thing I could offer is I went and found the general surgeon and, can you do a G tube or something? And
Yeah.
so they got him set up for that. And so hopefully they'll get some pain control and all that. It was definitely palliation, but that was just so hard.
Yeah.
Knowing that I wouldn't have done anything, I wouldn't have done surgery on this guy, I'm not the right person, but that I didn't have a place to send him, that I normally I have
Mhm.
those resources that I can send them places. I know
Yeah.
what to do, I know who the person is,
Yeah.
and just felt like sending this guy out to die when he was so glad that I just saw him.
Yeah.
And that was gut-wrenching. Then they
Right.
brought another patient in who had just like, I don't know, all of a sudden these patients are coming in, they're like, "Did you say these
That's
people
just how it
could come
goes, right?
in?" Yeah, it's Friday at 4 PM, that's why. It's the
Yeah.
same, everyone's the same here and there. And this guy had been in a bad car accident, and one of his injuries was he broke his jaw, and they'd put him back together. And he's like, I can't eat. And he's wasting away too. I thought he was a cancer guy, but his occlusion was so bad. He was not put back together correctly at all. And so he can't even hardly bring any of his teeth together. And there's a big step off. And
They probably had like a malfibrous union or something too, right?
so he's like, can you fix me? And I'm like, I'm leaving
Yeah.
in an hour, and I don't have a plate or screw. I don't have a drill. I don't have anything to cut bone. I don't have anything to put plates and screws to fix. So yeah, I
Yeah.
could probably fix you, but it's gonna have to be next time.
Yeah.
Well, when are you coming back?
Yeah.
But it's just hard when your hands are tied and there's
Sure is. Yeah.
not much you can do. So
Yeah.
we finished, and I didn't get the teeth out on the doctors because we kind of ran out of time, and they're kind of relieved. I think like, oh,
Yeah.
phew, we ran
But I
out of
think, don't you
time.
think that that would be the perfect opportunity to see if you can partner with one of our big companies here? Because you can get a CT scan on the guy and then you can do some
I
virtual
know,
surgical planning and you can get pre
right?
made custom plates and it can be a very straightforward thing,
Right,
with just having met him and have the information, and so you can still have those
right.
opportunities.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, oh gosh, if we could just do some planning and
Yeah.
get someone back here. It doesn't have to be me, get someone
Right.
else back here. Maybe do a BSSO, or I even feel like just refracture what was broken because it was so obvious.
Yeah.
But he had plates everywhere too. You're gonna have to get all the plate, these
Oh,
big,
wow.
huge honkin' recon bars all over. So you're gonna have to get the hardware off. I don't know. It's
Oh.
kind of a big thing for a Friday at 4 PM for
Sure is.
anyone. But
Yeah. It's a big thing for a Tuesday at
but they were
9
so
AM, but
grateful that I even took a look, and I felt terrible, like, these 2 people that really actually need help, and I couldn't,
yeah.
and that's a hard pill to swallow, just to see
Yes.
the need and to realize the poorest people here, almost everyone has running water and power and a toilet.
Yeah.
We have so much.
Yeah.
We're so blessed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one thing that is really obvious to me is that in places like that, the people are so much happier, so much more joyful, so much more grateful, so much more just in love with life, and I think that that is such an eye-opening feeling to be in a place like that and be part of that because you're like, "What are we doing wrong?"
Right. This patient came in and saw Abe, and he was an employee of TLC. And I love that too. They were trying to make sure all their employees were getting taken care of. So most of
Yeah.
my patients were employees that they keep having swelling from this wisdom tooth. So can you help them? And so I was glad that I can take care of these people so they can keep taking care of all of
Yeah.
these other people.
Yeah.
But this patient came in, and Abe was checking his ears. He's having some ear problems. And so he's able to clean his ears out and give him some medication. He had like dermatitis in his ears. So he had itchy ears, which
Yeah.
on the scale of things, is that really this huge big thing? But he was so grateful. And he had been kicked by a horse in the spine when he was a child. And so was paralyzed, paraplegic. And he was super rigid and contracted. And he came walking in on crutches. And I don't know how he was even doing it because when I'm on crutches, I'm like moving,
All the
doing these
things.
big swings.
Yeah.
And he's moving like an inch at each arm, just barely moving. And I took a video because I couldn't believe he could even stay upright, let alone, we'll call it walking. And so it was just phenomenal. Like, oh my gosh, that was amazing to see
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
And then they said, we want to take you to see a traditional homestead. We want to show you what most of the people live like. Do you want to do that? Of course. Yeah, we want to see
Yes.
that. We're going to take you to see this guy. Ended up being the same guy. And
Yeah.
so we got there, and this really long dirt road, drove for a long time. It seemed like probably half hour or something. I don't know.
Oh.
And we get there, and he's living in this little hut. He also had a Go Bears blanket. I was like, yes, it's so cool. But we get there, and he's showing us where he lives, and he's telling us how grateful he is and how happy he is that he has this job. And his job is putting educational and like religious materials in bags, like stuffing bags for the patients for when they leave. And he's working from home. And he's so grateful because TLC has basically saved his life, and he has this amazing job. And he told us that when he found out about TLC, he woke up at 1 in the morning and walked 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
6 hours, moving an inch at a time with those crutches where when I saw him, I couldn't believe he could walk at all, and so
Yeah.
I'm glad I'd have that experience to see
Mhm.
because 6 hours so that he could go
Yeah.
and apply for this job.
Yeah.
And, like,
Wow.
wow, and yet he was talking about how grateful he was and how God was so good and how happy he was, and he was so glad that we came as the doctors and that they could give him this medicine for his ears.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's an anti-itch cream for your ear. It's so small, but he was so grateful. He was so
Right.
happy. And it just shows, your circumstances aren't really what dictates your level of happiness, like you said.
No.
It's just
No, for
incredible.
sure. For sure. And so then I always think how magical it is for our children to see things like this, and to go to other places, to experience other cultures, and especially realize just how good that we have it here. So, how did your kids do? What did they think?
Yeah, I was worried how the kids would do. They're in that prime, "I'm bored," and that's the worst thing
Yes.
in their entire life, So I was a
Yes.
little worried, but they did really well, and they had service opportunities pretty much the whole time for them, except for they did let them come in the operating theater,
Theater.
to to watch, and so that was neat too, but they were helping in the kitchen, making meals, and they were helping at a preschool, and they were in the rehab center helping the patients, and they were playing with pediatric patients while they were waiting from their surgeries and everything.
Yeah.
I was really happy how much joy they seemed to get out of that, and they all said, "Yeah, my favorite part was working in the preschool or in the kitchen." When they did these patch removal ceremonies for the eye doctors the next day after their surgeries, they'd take off the patches and basically reveal their new vision, and they'd have basically this testimonial.
Yeah.
And my son said that was besides serving in the kitchen, that was his favorite part of the trip, and I was so glad to see that they could
Yeah.
recognize what a big deal that was, which
Yeah.
yeah, so I was really grateful. They were talking about this little girl in the preschool who didn't have any arms or legs and how much they loved her, and I think they maybe won't fully realize the impact now, but I wonder later they're gonna start to kinda realize, like, "Wow,
Yeah.
we have so much. We're so blessed."
Yeah. I bet that they'll want to go and do it again.
Yeah, Harriet said, "Mom, I really wanna go back when the doctors go back again."
Yeah.
And then Greta was like, "I might wanna take a little break," which I kinda get too. It was a lot. And
Yeah.
then my son was like, "Yeah, I would love to go back too." So that was really great to hear because it was a lot. It was hot, and they were working much of the time and
Yeah.
not just getting to go play and do all the fun things that they normally do. So,
Did
yeah, I
they
think it was
did they
really great.
get bored?
I think when they're in the theater, they got probably the most bored at times, but
Yeah.
even that, I thought my kids are kind of when the pictures come through on my phone from work, but they did really well, and my littlest one actually was pretty interested, so that was kind of fun that they could just come and see, in this instance, what dad does, so that's an opportunity you don't usually get either, so
Yeah.
that was neat.
Yeah. Really cool. And so when you left, was there like, we want to go back, let's make plans to go back? Was there any of that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think we'd like to go back. I don't know if I have it in me to go every year, for
Okay.
example, like the
Yeah.
eye guys. I don't know, I'll have to see.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel this pull to try to help them get things set up and built up for their dental. I'd love to bring a team of oral surgeons and or dentists, hygienists, etc., to come and help. So yeah, I definitely do. But one of the most impactful moments for me, and I think this kind of just summarizes maybe the experience a little bit, was I was peeking in on general surgery and this guy had this huge hernia, this inguinal hernia, which if you're not a medical person, if the abdominal wall gets weakened, your intestines can leak into your scrotum. And so
Yeah.
it was this giant hernia, like 2 feet long type of thing.
Goodness.
And so I was peeking in, "What is that? I need to see this."
Yeah.
So they finally got the intestines out of the scrotum, and they were marveling, like, the intestines had pretty much unraveled past the appendix, so upper right quadrant, So, pretty much the whole colon probably is in there, and so they're trying to reduce it, and they're pushing it back through the canal that it had come through, and it was a lot of work, and they're kinda struggling to get it, and then they finally got to the appendix area, and it was so thick, it wouldn't fit, and the surgeon was really struggling and like, "Man, do I have to widen this ring?" And you could tell he really didn't want to open this canal that's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And finally, he's like, "We should pray." So everyone just was like, "Yeah, okay." So everyone stopped what they're doing, and the anesthesiologist, the surge tech, the attending, and I don't know if he's a resident or a new surgeon, but the second assist, the first assist, all stopped, and they just covered up the patient and put their hands on the patient and said a prayer, and then got right back to it. And it was such an impactful moment. I took a
Mhm.
picture. I'm like, "Wow, I feel kind of bad that I'm ruining the sanctity of this moment, but this is so different than back home." And then within 5 minutes, he had it reduced, and you could tell he was still struggling, but it was amazing that suddenly it just went.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Wow, good job." And he's like, "It was God.
Mhm.
It was only Jesus." And then they're able to continue the surgery. But I was like, wow, I've had moments where I've prayed in surgery, but I've never let anyone know I was praying. I've never like taken that moment.
Yeah.
Just that humanity that we saw and that humility, I just thought, wow, that was worth coming to see that. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. But we've all had those moments, right? Where you're like, this cannot be done under my own power. I need to
Right.
channel. I need more. I need help. I need
But I don't wanna
something.
offend people, or it's not appropriate at work, or, we have all these thoughts and, feelings, or whether it's appropriate and stuff, and I just saw
Yeah.
that they were able to unapologetically just
But I
have
feel
that
like I'm
moment.
hearing more and more and more about it. Like Stephanie said that she has done that on a few occasions in the operating room. And we did that in the OR on the ship. And I just think that it is happening. And I think that it's okay. Right. I think talking about it more is good. And it's not forcing somebody into religion. It's not,
Yeah.
excluding people. I think it's a grounding, centering thing to realize that this is not a natural thing that we do in surgery. It's just not. And so we need to give grace where grace is due and ask for help when we can.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
Well, whenever you want to go back, I know that there's a lot of people that would love to go. I would love to go. I think that stuff just jazzes me up. I love it so much.
I was thinking about you. I wish Sarah were here. This would be totally in her
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
Yeah. I love it. As much as I complained about the Navy and having to beg for gauze and local anesthesia, I do really enjoy the opportunity to MacGyver things and figure stuff out and just get stuff done.
But you come do that part and just tell me, like, "Do this, Erin." 'Cause I'm going, "I don't know what to do." I was doing surgery at one point, and we got all the way to the end, and all I needed to do is, like, remove some bone, and the saw blade that I'd pulled out and everything that we'd, like, brought with us and had all set. No one there had thought to think, "Maybe this saw blade doesn't fit on our saw." And they handed me this giant ortho saw that looks like I'm
Mhm.
building a house, and I was like, "Oh, wow. Well, the saw blade doesn't fit on that." And they're like, "Well,
Like,
this is
this
what we
gives a new
have." And
meaning to a contraangle. I mean,
yeah, and so then they're like, "Well, here you go." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to try to make it work." And I'm trying to, and it's like hitting on her chest. I'm like, "That does not fit in her mouth because it's hitting her chest." So then okay, so I turned it upside down, and I turned the saw blade upside down, and I just kinda went a direction that didn't feel as safe because I had to, I'm like not normally going
yeah.
towards the blood vessel.
Yeah.
Unprotected, and then I finally got the bone off that I needed, but then I wanted to do a little more bone removal, and so they gave me another similar saw, or similar, and they gave me a round burr, but it was going like 10 RPMs. It's just like trying to remove and contour bone, and it's bouncing, so I'm trying to hold it, and I was like, wow. But, we got something done.
Yep. Something
We
happened.
got
Something.
something, we
Yeah.
got it done
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah. But it's amazing. I think that what you're describing is just realizing how lucky we are that we have all the instrumentation that we have, but
Yeah,
also you can get stuff done. It may take longer, but you can still get
yeah.
stuff done with minimal equipment. And that's okay. Just getting it done, right? Just showing up, just seeing the person, just doing a consult. That's getting it done. Just doing as much as you can. That's getting it done. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try not to complain so much when I go to the OR and they don't know what I want, or
Yeah.
Right?
But it is hard, right? Because when you step back onto US soil and you're like, "I'm watching these people with all of their fancy equipment, and you're telling me that you don't just have a round burr for me? It's the right size?" It's like, "What
Mhm.
in the world?" Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it makes it a little more difficult, but, whatever.
Well, the last thing I wanna talk about is the black mambas.
Okay, let's do it.
They have so many venomous snakes here. So many.
Really?
Like, they're showing this map of all the people who have been bit by the snakes and where the snakes were in the country and what the kinds were, and they had all of these
Oh,
different venomous
no.
kinds. And Matt, our friend who we went with, was saying that one of the years they came, they had a black mamba training session, and they literally had black mambas that they brought, and they were teaching people how to capture them safely because they get in your house or something, and then you try to
Yeah.
get it out, and then you get bit. And so he and his son learned how to catch black mambas, which I'm like, I don't know, that's cool, but also I don't know if I don't know, I would have been a little nervous. I don't like snakes anyway.
Yeah, but what
But
are you gonna do? If it comes in your house, like, it's good to know, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
need to know in case I get a black mamba in my house. There
Yeah.
was some kind of black venomous snake that the little girls saw that was like under the couch that the staff people had to track down and dispose of. But I thought it was so interesting. They were talking about if you get bit by a black mamba, it's a paralytic agent. And so what they
Oh.
do to treat it is they intubate you and just let you ride it out. And now they have more access.
It's not venomous, like, it's not gonna cause because here, like, the rattlesnakes will cause, tissue necrosis and all that.
Right? They made it sound like you just write it out with the paralytic, like, so you
So
get intubated,
interesting.
and then they said, "Well, now we have antivenom a lot more accessible, so if you get intubated without the antivenom in, like, a week, you'll wake up and we'll wake you up, but if it's antivenom, maybe, like, a couple days."
Yeah.
But I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's
Wow.
so crazy." But
Yeah.
then one of the cool things they're doing with the drones is that they're sending the antivenom out to more rural clinics if someone has an issue,
Yeah.
and they can get it anywhere in the country within, like, 45 minutes, and then they said most drones use, like, the parachute, I guess, to drop things down because they can't land, but their drones can land, and
Mhm.
they'll land, and then they can take back, like, if they have
Oh,
lab
nice.
samples and things, they can
Yeah.
send them back because they're saying it would take, like, 5 or 6 hours to get things back, and the heat and
Yeah.
everything, it would damage everything, and so now they're able to get these samples back from the clinics, and they can send
Yeah.
medications or the antivenoms out to whoever needs it, and so, I don't know, just a
Yeah. It's so cool. And I told
fascinating
you, like,
thing.
I sent that you had posted to my friend here, Lindsay, and I'd love to have her on because she had her son, when he was just a few days older than 2, was bit by a rattlesnake, and, I
No.
mean, just terrifying. It's just interesting. I'd love to have her on to talk about it and talk about the system here and how it all went down
Yes.
and the cost of treatment too. But
Oh,
I'd
wow.
love to do that because I think that's a problem everywhere, and they're doing such incredible things there that we're not even doing here. It's insane.
Well, they said last year, I think they said was the first year that they'd never had anyone pass away from a black mamba that year, and so
Wow.
that's pretty cool that
Yeah.
they're finding problems and finding solutions, so
Yeah.
that's very inspiring.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you wanna share about it? This is so fascinating to
I mean,
me.
I can talk forever
I know.
probably, but and there's just so much to see and experience and feel, but I appreciate that we got to talk about it a little bit today. And again, if
Yeah.
anyone is interested in coming on a trip like this, definitely would like to get some names and people. It would be great if people could go multiple times a year or really help build out the educational component for their doctors as well so that they can take care of people while they're there. That's a big part of it. They're trying to develop leadership and education for the people there so that they can, do some
Yeah.
more self-sustainability instead of just waiting for the doctors to come. They're trying to actually help them take care of their own people. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Super cool. Well, you can put me on the list.
Yes, that'll be fun.
Excellent.
Join us next time for another episode of the Resting Stitch Face podcast.
We'll
Have a
see
good
you then.
day.
Bye.
Love this conversation? Don't keep it to yourself. Hit follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you on the next episode of The Resting Stitch Face.